over 100 people have taken their own lives while by serving this sentence. And 27 or around 27 of them have been in the community after they released, because the fear of being recalled back to prison and spending the rest of their life was so great that they preferred to take their own life.
In the Times today, you'll find an interview with the sister of a man who served 14 years for theft and thinks he could die in prison. In 2012, Thomas White was arrested for stealing a mobile phone from 2 Christian missionaries while he was heavily intoxicated. He received imprisonment for public protection. It's an IPP sentence, a 2-year tariff with no maximum term. Well, the Prime Minister's called for a review of IPP prisoners as a potential solution to the overcrowding crisis. Marc Conway is the CEO of the campaign group UNGRIPP. He served one of those sentences himself. He is best known, though, as one of the 3 men who got involved to stop the 2019 London Bridge terror attack, where a narwhal tusk, a fire extinguisher and sheer bravery saved lives. Marc, good morning. Thank you for talking to us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So explain to us, for anyone who's not familiar, I know we've talked about it in the past, but what is an IPP?
So IPPs were given out in 2006. They was introduced by David Blunkett, part of the then Labour government under Tony Blair. They were supposed to be for the most dangerous people in society, and it was projected that around 900 people would receive it. Unfortunately, they was given that to nearly 9,000 people. So that's was 10 times the amount that it was projected to give out.
And do you mind telling us why you received one? And then, because it's indefinite, what process did you have to go through for people to say, OK, right, you can leave now?
Yeah, so I probably would have been one of them 900 people that was supposed to get it. I was committing armed robberies. I was heavily involved in criminal activities. So I probably would have been one of them 900 people. But actually what that shows is the injustice of the people that are still serving that sentence, of someone that, like you heard, like Thomas, who stole a mobile phone, someone who stole a laptop or a mountain bike, and 18 years later they're still in prison. The process to get out is extremely difficult for people. You have to prove yourself to the parole board, which in essence sounds okay, right? However, what happened was the offending behaviour programs that were available, there just weren't enough of them, and people got caught up in a backlog of the system, and with that their mental health deteriorated, so did their behaviour, so it made it near on impossible for people to be released. I just want to say that, you know, as we stand of June 2026, we have 2,271 people still serving this sentence. 854 of them are unreleased, and only 3 of them are under the recommended time that the judge has said for them to serve. Let's not forget, in 2012, this sentence was abolished. So for the past 14 years, these people have still been serving an abolished prison sentence, but it wasn't abolished retrospectively. So that means if you were still serving that sentence, you would still have to carry on serving that sentence. I would just like to say, though, 1,400 of them are recalls. So people that have been released and recalled back to prison. Out of them 1,400, 1,100 have been recalled back to prison for no further offences. So that means they haven't committed crime. So once, for some, only a few months ago, they was deemed safe to be released by the parole board, and they haven't committed any other offences, and they've been recalled back to prison. Now, this could be for something quite silly, like missing a probation appointment or turning back up at the approved premises late or staying at a girlfriend's house. So when we talk about the early release scheme, IPPs need to be included in that, because we have systems. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Out of them 1,100 people that have been deemed safe already to be released, and they've committed no further offences, means their risk has not risen. These people could quite easily be released. Now, there's processes in place, already in place, what can make that happen. So there's something called the RAR, the Risk Assessed Recall Review, which means people recalled for no further offences do not have to go through the parole board and add to the backlog of the parole board, and where they would have to wait 2 years. They could be released instantly, as it's commonly known, on the papers. and they could be released under tag with a 24-hour GPS monitor. You would free up around 1,100 spaces instantly, and the public would get behind that.
Yeah.
Because go on, sorry.
No, I'm just... the Prime Minister's called for a review of these sentences, in part because we've got this problem, that how do you tackle the prison overcrowding crisis? And Lord Clerk of Nottingham, the former Home Secretary, told Times Radio over the weekend he never imagined that 14 years after these type of sentences were abolished, we'd have over 2,000 people remain indefinitely detained, perhaps obviously until the day they die. That is the fear of the sister of the man who served 14 years for theft. Do you feel optimistic that with this new Prime Minister that something might now change for the people who are still in prison? And what checks and balances do you think need to be put in place when these people got given a sentence which says we can't determine how long we think you should be here because of either something about your personality or the nature of the crime that you've committed? What process needs to be in place to better evaluate which people can go and which people have to stay?
Yeah, firstly, we've had reviews before. So Andy Burnham is the man of the people, right? So we're hoping that he realises that people in prison are still people, and not just a number and not just a sentence. And hopefully they will get treated as fairly as other members of society, firstly. But we've heard reviews before. Just because the Prime Minister's ordered a review, it doesn't mean that anything is going to change. Like I said, there's two main ways that you can get the numbers down in prison for... so I've spoke about releasing people who have been recalled for no further offences, but also countless of people, a Justice Select Committee have recommended a resentencing policy. We're not asking for people that are going to get out of prison 50% through their sentence like the early release scheme is proposing. Some of these people have served decades over their recommended time. Now, the one thing about this British justice system is the punishment must fit the crime. And sadly, in the case of IPP, this is not the case. Can I also just say to your listeners and yourself that over 100 people have taken their own lives while by serving this sentence. And 27 or around 27 of them have been in the community after they released because the fear of being recalled back to prison and spending the rest of their life was so great that they preferred to take their own life.
Marc, it's been fascinating. Thank you for talking to us. Marc Conway, the CEO of UNGRIPP, who was given an IPP sentence but managed to, of course, as you heard there, change his life quite dramatically.
Just to put those numbers in context then, there's 5,000 people being freed in the early release scheme in order to solve the prison crisis. 5,000. 2,000 people are on IPPs, either recalled or still in prison. You could get rid, 2/5 of that entire backlog. You get rid if you got rid of a system that's already been abolished. I know some of you think, don't commit the crime if you can't serve the time and have no sympathy. But if you're letting out sex offenders and keeping people in prison because they nicked a phone 14 years ago, there's no moral accounting, I think, that can make that make sense.